The first question I had is there seemed to be hope, when there is still the Normandy format, when the European leaders were there meeting with President Poroshenko, that even if an agreement couldn't be reached in terms of the East and monitoring a ceasefire, that something could be agreed on with gas. And then when President Poroshenko and President Putin met alone, that seemed to disappear. Did that seem genuine, or do things change when European leaders aren't there in the room?
Look, firstly, it's not about a sort of balance between ceasefire and the whole situation around Donetsk and Lugansk and gas. Firstly, the critical point also for Milan was the situation, really Donbass, sustainable ceasefire, critical point about the border, about setting up effective control, because what is getting in Ukraine is getting from Russia into Ukraine, and it's all about mercenaries, about money, about weapons, about heavy weaponry.
So were ways to monitor that discussed? Were there concrete measures?
Yeah, exactly.
That were on the
and
table?
the idea now to progress, to go on practical technical ideas, technical means about more drones. And we are talking now about a sort of special pool, including our drones, including German drones, including French drones.
But did Russia play a role in that process? Were they part of the discussion? Did they facilitate
actually, I
that?
understand that Russia now is contemplating the idea is to provide its own drones for this exercise. So we need to engage them, but engage, of course, under the umbrella of the OSCE. And next week, starting from tomorrow, we will discuss how it could be organized.
And is that an idea Ukraine is open to, using Russian drones to monitor the ceasefire in the east?
It's not about us using Russian drones. It's about OSCE using any sort of technical means, how to monitor and verify the situation on the ground in Donetsk and Lugansk, but also along the border. And it should be purely under the umbrella of the OSCE. It's the only precondition how it could be delivered. But it's also about video surveillance, about checkpoints, about spot inspections, about every kind of means which should be used for closing down the border.
But looking at Milan, a lot of people have called it a failure because there is no concrete agreement that came out of it, not concerning gas and not concerning the ceasefire. How do you see that? How do you see the results of those talks?
To expect a real breakthrough from Milan would be absolutely foolish, and I'll tell you why. Because it's not, every other day that we meet Putin 3 times a day, and actually it was the special format. I would call it extended Normandy format. Also with David Cameron, also with Matteo Renzi, also with 2 presidents from the European Union. It was a real Normandy format, and it was a bilateral meeting. So a lot of issues discussed. It was a difficult chat, of course. But talking to each other on this issue in this format is extremely important.
But we're following that, this ceasefire had been broken and it was told about like more than 1,000 times with different kind of using of weaponry. There is amount of the civilians died. And if you go on the ground, if you're on the ground, the people there tell it's a joke, the ceasefire. And it hasn't moved. So do you have any back plan? So if it goes like that, if the Minsk Accords don't work at all, what we are doing, what the country is doing, what the government is doing?
Well, it's not about plan A and plan B. We have Minsk agreements. We have to stick to the whole mentality of the ceasefire. It's really difficult. It's not working ideal. It's actually far from being ideal. But if we follow the situation on the ground for the last, 2 weeks, it's definitely developing, and it's in the only way forward. If we fail, we will find the way how to defend Ukraine, how to defend our sovereignty. But the price for that would be different, and it's a key point there. But what we have to do now is really 2 critical things. A part of the sustainable ceasefire is closing down the border fully And of course, elections, because this is joke, a kind of fake elections, Donetsk and Lugansk have been preparing now. It's not a way forward. And the way forward is to include Donetsk and Lugansk into all Ukrainian political process.
And already so far, the leaders of these so-called republics, of these armed groups, they tell that they will hold these elections. And it's very soon, it's in a couple of weeks. What if it happens? Is there any deadline? So if all goes as it is, when something would be changed?
No, it's simple. Now Russia has to deliver. Putin said quite clearly in Milan that Russia simply does not want Donetsk and Lugansk to become another Transnistria. If such elections will be held in the way that so-called presidents of Donetsk and Lugansk and parliaments of Donetsk and Lugansk will be elected, it would bring the situation exactly in the direction of a sort of frozen conflict. So now it's about clear message from Russia and from the Russian president himself not to hold elections in this way. And it's about clear message from the European Union and from everyone that any sort of reasonable and sensible assistance will be delivered only to those who are ready to enter into all Ukrainian political process.
But in general, what would be there, even with this agreement, to avoid a frozen conflict?
No, absolutely. The whole idea of Minsk agreements is about the mentality of the presidential peace plan, and this is the only comprehensive way forward, not because we all elaborated this plan, but because it's about a number of measures how to de-escalate the situation. It's about humanitarian dimension. It's about how to repair the infrastructure on the ground. It's about how to give the people jobs. It's about how to repair the whole economy there. But it's also about decentralization. It's also about the whole idea how to give people more freedom, but also more responsibility.
Well, I think unfortunately on that note we'll have to end because we're running out of time, but thank you very much.
No, we have a couple of more questions in that way, because we are like free in this, in the Hromadske. So if there would be, we have now this new news about the German Foreign Intelligence Service and has concluded that pro-Russian separatists were responsible for the crash of Malaysian flight. And it was, what it will change? There would be this German, there was this recent
Well, we're
news.
curious, it was, the German Federal Intelligence Agency, they had in an article released, I believe it was today, there was information about MH17, that they were saying that it was the separatists using a Buk rocket that had been fired and had brought down the flight. Is that a position that the
Look,
Ukrainian...
let's be honest. Is it real news in that sense? Who could be, not absolutely sure that it's about them to shut down the plane as real terrorists? And for me, it was a total disaster, also emotional disaster, negotiating through the trilateral contact group about real access to the crash site with them. And it's not about politics. It's about a sort of unhuman behavior there, taking bodies and bringing them from the crash site. It's all about that. It's all about idea how to hide the consequences of this terrorist acts. So how can, it's of course a point. It's a news. But it's just a reference. But for me, I'm absolutely sure. Of course, we need fully transparent investigation. But at the end of the day, it's not just about clear idea who is behind that. It's about bringing all perpetrators to justice. So it's exactly the goal we all have, have to get in front of us.
We also if Ukraine relies a lot on the foreign support, but it sounds something very, very general, like support is there. If there is one message, what do you really want from the world community, if there is when you're talking on that at this point?
It's not about one message. It's about real solidarity. I've been talking about solidarity for years, and it was not the case from the European Union, from the civilized world. And now the whole civilized world, and it's not a sort of pathetic message, it's exactly with us. And it's not just about sanctions, it's not just about political pressure. It's about making Ukraine a real success. It's about making Ukraine united, democratic, and European country.
But surely those, I mean, being democratic and united, those are things that Ukrainians do and that they do on that side. Is there one request or one concrete thing from foreign countries that Ukraine wants? Is that equipment or a certain type of financial help? Is there a key priority in the aid Ukraine needs?
You can't say we can get that and after that we will deliver. It's about success for Ukrainian reforms. We have to deliver on reforms. But it's about a kind of assistance for self-assistance. If we get this assistance in the way how the new EU member states got this assistance for the EU membership, it will be a case for Ukrainian success. And for me, it's exactly the idea. We have a window of opportunity now. We failed on a lot of chances. We can't fail now. And it's about reforms, it's about delivering of reforms, and it's about Ukraine as a European and democratic country for me.
While there is also some criticism coming from the European partners about not passing particular laws, for instance, on the IDPs, on the also that the Ukraine isn't fast enough to change this bureaucratic process, and that the humanitarian aid can't come to Ukraine often because the laws are not there. There are issues with the taxes, and what are you doing to ensure that that if you want to support and solidarity, that Ukraine also does what it can do?
Look, it's a very good point. Actually, if you ask me personally, I would like to reshuffle the whole system of delivering assistance, and not only humanitarian assistance to Ukraine. We need a new system, unbureaucratic system, which gets this assistance to the point. It's already underway. And exactly after elections, and I fully believe it will come quite quickly, we will get all the necessary laws, but also, and for me it's a critical point, a real implementation, a real delivery on these laws. Because we already have a number of very good laws. Sometimes they are better than European ones. And what we need now is just start implementing them. For me, it's about governance. For me, it's about anti-corruption. And for me, it's about rule of law. And on these free grounds, we could deliver on economic reforms.
But there is something which depends on you, because we have also the questions from our audience and from the diplomats that, for instance, there are still the ambassadors in such countries like Germany, like the United Kingdom, where it really, really matters. And it's up to you to appoint them, but it's too long in this very, very important period when the role of the ambassador is really, really important not to have them there.
I'm the one actually who is the most interested in appointing the ambassador, but there is also a diplomatic procedure. I will reveal a sort of secret. We spent quite considerable time in delivering the formal agreement, how it calls in the diplomatic system, for our ambassador and really a good friend of mine, Mr. Shamshur, who is now our ambassador in France. We submitted all the requests, and I very much hope that in the nearest future we could have ambassadors. And you will be pleased, I hope, to see new, very pushy ambassadors in all key countries. But it's about diplomatic process, it's about getting agreements, but we will pull it off.
Last for a couple of months already. We see. So thanks a lot for your participation. We hope we can have an opportunity to ask them when they are there later on for our foreign audience. And the next time I'm sure we would give an opportunity that you also can pose the question using our hashtags and Twitter and all the other interactive communication.
Thanks, and best wishes, actually. It's not every other day that such a project is kicked off. So I'm really honored.
Thank you for being here with us.